Greetings and salutations, travelers of the internet. Welcome to the Lit Roundtable. I'm Anna.
And I'm Joseph. We'll be your wise or not so wise mentors for today's audio adventure into all things storytelling. Welcome to episode 9.
Hello!
Hello! Hello!
Hello! Woo! We're here!
Yeah. Exciting stuff for tonight.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about what we've been watching, reading, all that good stuff. The huge. We're going to talk about the lives of Locke, LaMora. When are we going to talk or announce what the next book's going to be? Do you know? Or are we going to wait on that? Or should we do it now so people can have a chance to get it?
Yeah,
if
we
they
could
want
do that.
I'll let you do that because I don't actually know the title and you do.
Okay, so
well, we'll get there.
I don't have it right here.
And then we're gonna go over some just housekeeping things for going forward. We're gonna kind of restructure things after Lies of Locke LaMora that I think will be good.
Totally.
Yeah. So, let's start with the usual. What are you reading, watching? What have you been up to, Anna?
Well, I have had a very productive time since our last recording.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start with what I've been reading first. I have officially finished the Harry Potter series, which I am so excited about. Very glad to be done with it.
That's a long one.
It's a long series. It's a lot of books. The last book in particular is twice as long as it needed to be.
It's a chonker.
It is. Also, fully recognize that I have the disadvantage of not reading it as the target audience and reading it as an adult.
And all at once and not waiting between releases.
Exactly.
You just binged it.
Yeah. So after I finished The Deathly Hallows, I did a nice palate cleanse and listened to a Jane Austen book.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to Northhanger Abbey, which was a new one for me. I think that maybe I've seen parts of a show. Because I think the BBC did a version of it. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've seen the whole thing. I didn't know the whole premise. But it was very good. Definitely one I will be revisiting. And it was a nice palate cleanse.
Mm-hmm.
Which I finished that today. Which was my 34th book to have read this year.
Wow.
Which I'm very pleased with myself for.
Yeah.
Of course, that includes audiobooks. So.
Yeah.
And
still a
now,
crazy number, though.
It is. Well, it's not. There are other people that have read far more than I have already, but it's a big accomplishment for me.
It's only May.
It's only May. And I don't normally read that. In the past, have not read that many books, typically, in a year.
Yeah.
So, it's exciting for me.
Mm-hmm.
But now, I am reading Shadow and Bone, which I'm reading, the book. By Leigh Bardugo.
Because the
show.
Netflix series just came out.
Yes.
Which I've been meaning to start, but have not yet.
I am fully committed in reading all of the Grishaverse books first, which is the trilogy that I'm currently reading. The first book of, which I've read before, but I'm rereading it because it's been a long time. And there's 2 duologies as well. So I've got 7 books to read.
Cool.
Before I can let myself watch the show. And I intend to read them and not just listen to them, because I want to have that visual experience with these books, because I know that I love them, because I love the first one. And I also started listening to Walk on Earth a Stranger by Carson today.
Huh, okay.
Which is a YA book that I have read before. It's set in the West, about a girl who can sense magic.
Huh.
No, sorry. She can sense gold using magic. Sorry, misspoke.
In the West, is this a Western?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Set during the gold rush.
Okay.
So I've read this first book before, and I own the other 2. I own all of them, and just have not read them all. But it's been a while. So, and they had the first book on Hoopla, which is the library's free audiobook program.
Cool.
So I'm listening to the first one, and then I will read the next 2. So I'm listening to that right now, which I'm very excited to be getting back into.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's what I'm reading. Do you want to talk about your books first? before we jump into what we're watching? Because we're watching very similar things.
We are, sure.
And I want to have a more, like, cohesive conversation about the things that we're watching.
So, of course, Lies of Locke, LaMora. Still plugging away through that. And very excited to talk about that. Mm-hmm. Some stuff has gone down.
Oh my gosh, that's an understatement.
Oh boy. Yep, still reading some nonfiction stuff. Still reading The Great Hunt. Yeah, my reading stuff has not really changed.
Okay.
But for other things like games, I have made progress on Ghost of Tsushima. I'm hoping to finish that relatively soon. I have... Let's see, what else was I playing? I made a little more progress on my second playthrough of Persona 5. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for what I've been reading and playing. For watching, one thing that's unique to me is Critical Role, which has admittedly taken up a lot of time that could have been devoted to reading or playing games. But I have chosen to watch others play a game instead, which is D&D. Which reminds me, we're still playing our Lord of the Rings themed RPG, The One Ring. Mm-hmm. So that is still something that we've been playing, which has been fun. Mm-hmm. Killed some spiders last session.
Yeah.
That was a grand old time. Rescued a dude from spiders. So yeah. Now, for what I've been watching, like I said, Critical Role, I'm on like episode 78 or something out of 134.
Whoa. Ugh.
And they're each like 4 hours long.
Dude, there's no way.
So this is why I haven't been reading anything.
I so badly want to get into Critical Role, but I do not have the capacity. I don't have the time capacity for that right
it's definitely something that I turn on in the background sometimes and just have going.
Yeah.
You can't just devote all of your mental energy to it every time you turn it on. But I mean, when things get intense, you obviously kind of pick up on it and you can start watching seriously. And then when you can kind of tell when things are like in a chill, more low-key thing, and then you can just kind of vibe. But just like watch TikTok and have that in the background and or
so much auditory processing.
Yeah, that's hard to do. Or just scroll on Tumblr or Reddit or something. But
Tumblr?
Yeah.
I still use Tumblr.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, but for both of us, we had something...
Well, hold on. Before we dive into that, I do just want to give a quick plug for something that I've been watching independently, which is Cells at Work, which is an anime. It's on Netflix in English, but it's basically like cells of your human body and their role and what they do fighting germs.
But they're all like anime characters.
Right.
And it's very charming.
It's very cute. It's a very good intro anime.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Because it's not like... Because they fight the germs like traditional anime fights bad guys.
Yeah.
But it's much lower stakes. Because they're just cells.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So...
It's very good, though.
And there's a white blood cell and a red blood cell that are just, like, so cute.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love them.
Yep.
So.
And the platelets.
Which are like little toddlers that fix
construction
things.
workers.
They're so cute.
Which is weird because platelets are definitely bigger than red blood cells and white blood cells, I think.
I don't actually know.
It's just kind of funny. But yeah, obviously not scientifically accurate. But it's not trying to be. So.
No. Well, I mean, I think that I think it's accurate in what each cell is doing.
Yeah.
Like what their role is in the body.
It is actually very educational.
But obviously, like, your red blood cells do not look like a girl with red hair in a cute little uniform.
Yeah. But it's a very fun show.
Yes.
Would definitely recommend
And it's short. It's only like 12 or 13 episodes, so it's not like a huge time commitment. They're like short episodes. They're just... It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Was there anything else you were watching by yourself before we move to the joint watching?
Well, do you... Yeah, no.
Okay.
But I'm wondering which order you want to.
Well,
do you want to handle the Star Wars first, or?
We'll start with just the usual My Hero Academia.
Oh.
Still watching that
Yes.
on Fridays. But there was actually something else that you ended up binge watching.
Yes. Because, okay. So there's a movie called Demon Slayer.
Mugen Train.
Say it again.
Mugen Train.
Mugen Train.
Yeah.
That came out in Japan last year.
Uh-huh.
It was very popular. Just made it to the U.S., at least to our part of the U.S. And Joseph and Hope went and saw it in Lincoln 2 weekends ago, and we're just raving about it. And I hadn't seen the anime show that leads up to this movie, but like the way they were talking about it, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to get in on this action. And so I binged the show, which it's only one season, but it is like 27 episodes. But they're short
like
episodes.
20-minute, like they're not long episodes.
No, it really didn't take long, and it's available on Netflix and dubbed, so I didn't have to read it while I was watching it.
Yeah.
And it was so good. It's a lot more intense than Cells at Work.
Very much more intense. Very much so.
It is so good.
It is one of my favorite anime ever.
The main character is one of the most lovable characters I think that I have ever encountered.
Yeah, which is interesting for a main character because I feel like in a lot of the things that I watch or read, the main character is never my favorite character or the most likable to me.
I'm thinking of Hunter x Hunter and Gon and Killua.
See, that's the thing though. Anime is always the exception.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking like...
Sorry, I mean like Western things. Like,
okay. I thought you were saying in all of anime even, and I was like, are you kidding? Because I could think of like Midoriya in My Hero Academia is just...
Yeah, something about anime protagonists are so lovable. And I just, for some reason, I just don't... A lot of like Western media, I just don't get that feeling. Maybe it's because they're too focused on it being like self-insert that it's hard to...
What Joseph just admitted is that he needs to go to therapy.
Because I hate myself.
To learn how to love himself. But no, I get exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's something about anime, and we've talked about this a little bit, like off the podcast, obviously, about how anime does and Japanese storytelling is so different from what we're used to in Western storytelling. And there's something about it that is just lovely, even when it's disgusting.
Yeah, like a villain is doing something totally despicable.
Yeah.
It's still, I don't know, it's something about like the relationships between the characters. And like, I remember you were talking about like family relationships in anime are usually really strong, except for when they're not and they're awful.
Right.
But it's for a purpose, like it's just part of the story.
Yeah.
But like there's really good connections between family in Demon Slayer.
Oh my gosh. Demon Slayer.
Hunter
x Hunter is interesting.
Like with Gon and his aunt, who is like his mom.
Yes. Agreed.
And Killua just has a really weird family dynamic, which is, that's part of his backstory.
Yes.
Being raised by assassins. Anyway, that's off topic, but... So yeah, you binged all of Demon Slayer, and then we went to see the movie together. It was Hope and I, we had seen it a second time then. That was our second time seeing it.
Yeah.
And your first time seeing it. And that was a great movie.
It was so good.
It was like everything from the animation to the music to the story to just the new character that was introduced, or characters. There were a couple new characters introduced. The things that happened between existing characters.
Yeah.
It was very good. I would highly recommend Demon Slayer to anyone. I would say that's probably a decent introductory anime too.
It's more so like Cells at Work is like a very like kind of fluffy anime, and Demon Slayer is more of like my understanding of the traditional like superpowers. Except they're not really superpowers. It's complicated. You should
Yeah.
just watch it. It's very good.
It's so just so you have a hint for like a premise before you go watch it. It's
For
set
sure,
in.
watch the show first before you see the movie.
Oh yeah,
'Cause the movie will
you have to
not make
watch the show
sense.
before you see the movie.
Yes.
But it's basically about these Japanese people who become demon slayers, and it's set in, I forget what the era is in Japan, but it's in the past. It's like pre-World War II Japan is what it's set in.
There's trains.
There's some technology, but it's very old stuff. There's no like phones or anything, I don't think.
No.
But they have cool samurai swords and they hunt for demons, and it's very, very cool.
Which the demons are like kind of zombies.
Like they used to be humans and they got turned into demons.
Right.
So it's a very good show.
It's very good.
We got to see that. So the other thing that we both watched was, yesterday was Star Wars Day. We're recording this on May 5th.
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday, the first episode of the Bad Batch show came out on Disney Plus, which
I think it was longer than an average episode is going to be.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it was like an hour and
it was
a
like
half.
the pilot. It was it was like an hour 20 or something.
It was like a movie.
So yeah, the first episode came out, and it's a spin-off of the Clone Wars TV show, following some characters that we met during the final season of the Clone Wars, and it was very good.
Yeah.
It kind of picks up right at like during and preceding Revenge of the Sith events for Star Wars. It's very cool kind of seeing what was happening on Kamino during, like with all the clones there during like the Empire forming. It was just very interesting. So I definitely recommend, if you've seen the last season of Clone Wars, to watch the Bad Batch. So
I did not know that it was going to make me relive Order 66 for the third time.
Yeah.
Which
Ow.
is a lot.
Uh-huh.
Now I have a question for you, and I'm hoping you'll know the answer.
Uh-huh.
The Padawan.
Uh-huh.
Is that Kanan?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was like, I bet that's Kanan. And then I looked up Kanan's name and was like, wait, that is not what they called him. And then I was very confused.
Yeah.
And I just decided I was going to let that be a concern for another day.
Nope, that was him.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
And that makes it even more heartbreaking.
Yes, it does. So the character I just referenced is from the show Rebels.
Yeah.
Which is also quite good. It's a very different kind of Star Wars show.
Yeah.
The tone of it is different, but it's very fun.
Mm-hmm. It's still really good.
And there's also some heart-rending moments in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Very good. So yeah, go watch The Bad Batch if you haven't already. That is if you're up to date on Clone Wars stuff.
I don't know if you necessarily have to have seen Clone Wars.
I think it'll help, though.
I think it helps, but I think if you I think you could still jump into this out of order a little bit.
It's possible.
Because the characters that we're following now were in 2 or 3 episodes?
Yeah, something like that. I don't recall.
So it kind of helps out. There's some stage setting that's done in the Clone Wars, but I don't think that it's necessarily mandatory to have seen that.
Yeah.
Going in.
If you haven't seen all of Clone Wars and you jump right into Bad Batch, let us know how that goes.
Yeah. But it was fun.
Yeah, it was very good. I was very pleasantly surprised. I mean, I didn't have super high expectations, but I also have a lot of respect and faith in Dave Filoni to make good content for Star Wars. So, and I knew he was heading that up, so I knew it would probably be good. I just didn't expect myself to like it as much as I did. I don't know.
I mean, I've never been a huge clone fan for Star Wars. That particular storyline has never been as interesting to me as some of the other storylines. But the Clone Wars animated show definitely changed that. And so, and honestly, I probably would not have watched The Bad Batch except that it premiered on Star Wars Day. And I was like, oh, I need to watch something Star Wars for today. And it was very convenient that had come out.
The marketing team gotcha.
They did. They did. But I'm really not mad about it. I'm very pleasantly surprised and excited to see more.
Yeah.
So.
Very good stuff. So yeah, that's kind of what we've been up to lately. Don't think there's anything else really. So now we will go ahead and jump into what we've read for Lies of Locke LaMora. And holy cow.
I'm going to set my timer.
Set your timer, because we can't spend too much time on this. We've got other stuff to talk about. But wowza. The first chapter, remind me what happens, because I read that one a little bit ago.
That chapter is what happens to Locke when he's dressed as the Grey King.
Right, when they chuck him out in the barrel.
Yes.
And Jean and Bug.
Does this one it picks up with right after Locke has been thrown in the...
Yeah.
Right?
Because Jean and Bug are trying to get him out of that canal that he got chucked into.
Yes.
And those nasty crab spider things attack them.
Right, that's chapter 10. Called Teeth Lessons.
Yeah. So they got Locke out.
Yeah, well, okay. There was one moment in this chapter that I was like, okay. And that is when Bug jumps 15 feet down into 4 feet water.
And doesn't break his neck.
Or his tailbone.
Yeah.
He's like, I did a cannonball. And I'm like, you would have broken your butt, dude. There's no way that didn't happen. That water needed to be 4 feet deeper.
Yeah.
For that to even be kind of okay.
It's been a long time since I've swam in a pool. He's also small.
15 feet is high. 15 feet is like jumping off of, like, my roof.
Yeah.
Into 4 feet of water.
I'm no physics expert, but I feel like you're probably right. He probably should have, like, broken his tailbone or something.
Or hurt it, at least.
Bruised it.
But that's not the most... I mean, Locke was also unconscious in a barrel of horse pee for quite a while.
Yikes.
So...
But they got him out.
Yeah.
They rescued our main character. They finally rescued him. So that was good. That was good that happened.
Yeah, just in time for them to
just in time for them to go back to their hideout and find that couple of their buddies got their throats cut by the Grey King. That was
while they're there,
that was a tough time. And then while they're there, it looks like the Bonds Mage laid out a curse for Jean, and he was incapacitated by this curse. Mm-hmm. And another dude walked in with a crossbow and shot Bug in the neck and killed him.
Yeah.
And then Locke killed that guy and freed Jean from his curse. And now they are a two-man team.
It's full of rage.
They are out for revenge.
Yes. I hope that they succeed, because I am so sad.
I think it's funny because I think a few sessions ago we were talking about tropes. You talked about how you hate it when the main character's only motive is revenge.
Well,
it's not his only motive. Well, okay, right now it's kind of his only motive.
Yes. I would like some clarification.
Yeah.
This is revenge for characters that we have come to love.
Yeah. It's
revenge
not just
in the first chapter.
Yeah.
I'm not about it.
Yeah.
This revenge in the last quarter of the book, yes.
Uh-huh. That's fair. Because I feel it.
Yeah.
I need justice for Bug.
Yeah. Yes.
And the Sansa brothers, they're never gonna cheat anybody at cards again.
Yeah.
Bugs never. Bugs. Oh, that was so sad because he was like, "Am I a real gentleman bastard?"
Oh, and he just so badly wanted someone's approval.
Yeah.
And yeah,
it was so sad.
It was real emotional.
That ends. I think that chapter just ends with them plotting their revenge.
You're right. Chapter 10 ends with them deciding that they're out for blood.
Yeah.
And they're concocting a plan.
Yes.
And then the interlude is fantasy football. And it is the most buzzkill thing I've ever read. And I'm sure it's important, but I was just the whole time I was reading it, I was like, I do not care about this. I'm sorry, Scott Lynch, I do not care.
Yeah. What we mean about fantasy football is it's like an interlude about a sport that they play in Camor that's kind of like football. And it's basically just a story about how Camori people hold grudges and will literally kill you because of a grudge.
Years and years later.
Yeah. So I guess it's just kind of setting up how we know that this isn't something that Locke is going to let go, and he will either get his revenge or die trying, is basically
Right.
what I got from that interlude.
No, I know that's what I was supposed to get, but oh my gosh, I'm glad it was short.
It was a very short interlude.
Because, one, it's sports, and I just don't care that much.
Yeah.
And, sorry to any sports listeners out there. And I just wanted to get on with the story.
Yeah.
Because it was so high tension.
Yeah. It was a very tense moment. And then it was a flashback about a sporting event. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
It added to world building.
It did.
It was interesting placement. I don't know.
You have more patience for that than I do.
Yeah.
As we've established.
It's because it's related to setting. So yes. Clearly my big brain just processes setting.
Big brain boy.
Better than you.
BBB.
What? Shut
big
up.
Brain boy. New nickname.
Oh no.
BBB. Okay, so then chapter 11 is at the court of Caporaza.
Yeah.
Who we've never heard of before.
Yeah, who's Caporaza?
Who is that?
So,
dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, Locke shows up to Kappa Barsavi's celebration of killing the Grey King, and then...
Because he's probably just as equally ticked off at the Grey King as he is at Kappa Barsavi for almost drowning him. Would you say? Like, he's more mad at the Grey King, but...
Locke is definitely more mad at the Grey King. Because
yeah, but
Barsavi
I think he's...
tried to drown him in horse pee because he thought that he was the Grey King.
I know.
I don't think he really had it out for Barsavi at all.
You don't think so?
Like, only much more passively. Like, he still did things to like, screw Barsavi over with, like, doing his thievery things. But
right. I don't think he had any intentions of killing Barsavi, but I don't think that he was... I think that he went to this party. He didn't go to this party thinking that the Grey King was going to be there, right?
Yeah, he didn't know it was going to happen.
He was like, I'm going to go see what's going on, but he's mad.
Because he knows that the Grey King is still alive, right. And they did deduce that he's probably going to try to take out Barsavi. They just didn't know how.
Right. So he's going to see Barsavi. It's like a... Oh, wait. Did they kind of determine that this was all like... That the con wasn't over yet?
Yeah, they figured out that... Yeah, they deduce that the Grey King is gonna try some sort of shenanigans while Barsavi is celebrating now that he thinks the Grey King's dead. And, oh boy, did the Grey King deliver.
Oh my gosh.
It was very theatrical. So, I mean, long story short, a shark bit Barsavi's arm off.
And the Grey King has sisters?
Yeah, who are those two, like...
Water acrobats?
Like, yeah, the shark tamer people are his sisters, and they just brutally took out Barsavi's sons. Like, just killed them.
Yeah.
And, like, most of the people there just got a knife in the back. It was very Red Wedding, kind of.
Oh, yes. Which, like, that's a reference to Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know.
It was very just backstabby, like, people are all of a sudden just getting their throats cut. And
bloodbath.
And Barsavi's arm is getting ripped off by a shark. And then, so the Grey King comes in, whispers something in Barsavi's ear, and then cuts his throat, and proclaims himself the new Kappa Raza.
Right. Which we also learned that the Grey King is, like, also the reason why Kappa Barsavi's wife died.
Yeah.
So there's, like...
What the heck?
There's some, like, long-standing history here that we have no idea about.
Yeah, this is a long con that...
Yes.
And I feel like Barsavi does know him, but just didn't realize it. I'm sure what he whispered in his ear was him telling him who he really was.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
I think you're right.
So now, it's how is Locke going to take out the Caporaza?
Right. Because Caporaza... who was the Grey King, has also, like, made Barsavi's men and Garistas swear fealty to him.
Yes.
And if they weren't willing to do it right then and there, they've got, like, a time frame in which to accomplish it by.
Or that they can just leave during.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's all Caporaza's game now.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see how Locke is going to take him out. My theory is that, well, what I want to see happen is I want to see Locke somehow trick the Grey King into killing the Bonds Mage. So that way all of the other Bonds Mages come down on the Grey King like a hammer. I want to see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be very satisfying for me.
It really would.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, and then this chapter ends with the plague ship rolling up.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Locke passed out in the street, and the plague ship rolling up.
It'll just be super anticlimactic. The plague will enter Camorra, and the Grey King will catch the plague and die.
Oh my gosh.
Just like... That'd be so dumb.
Yeah.
What if that actually happens? Okay.
Wow.
Place your bets.
I will say this about this book. It has surprised me at almost every turn. Where I thought something was going to go one way, it went a totally different way.
This book really is like a clinic on subverting expectations in a good way that is also satisfying for the audience.
Yes. So, very good.
Good job, Scott Lynch.
If you're not reading it, what are you doing?
You should read it.
Even though we've spoiled a ton of stuff for you.
Yeah, what are you doing?
You should still read it, because we're giving very, condensed versions of
for sure.
what's happening.
Which, on that note, this reminds me about the housekeeping thing we're going to go over.
Yep.
So that'll be it for our discussion today about this. Okay, so after the Lies of Locke LaMora is done, we're going to switch things up a little bit. We are still going to do a read-along, but we are going to pull the read-along section out of the main podcast, and that's going to be its own thing.
Yeah.
So that way, if you're not reading the book with us, you don't have to try to hunt for a time code. And
you don't have to suffer through it with us.
And yeah, and then
Not that it's suffering, because we have a delightful conversation.
Of course, yeah. Our commentary is just great.
So good.
And we're so humble. So we are going to pull the read-along sections into their own videos and segments, audio segments, and we are then going to just alternate those. So it'll be podcast one week, the following week will be read-along week, and then podcast the next week. So that way, you get a piece of content every week.
Right.
And it'll be, I think it's going to be better.
Yeah, I think so too.
So.
Well, and the other thing is that we are also individually in the process of working on some book review type things on our own that will also go up in these spaces.
Yes.
So that'll be something to look forward to. That's still in the works, because it means having the diligence to
write a script for it.
What's the word?
Patience.
No.
Time. Willpower.
No. Whatever. All those are good words. To sit down and make ourselves
personal time management skills.
Yes. That wasn't the word I was looking for, but that's what I'm getting at.
Which we both suck at. So.
Hey, speak for yourself. I also suck at it.
I think we both have room for improvement.
It's like we're human.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, so this is a good time to talk about the book we're going to be reading next, which, just a quick plug, we'll probably mention this a couple times in the next few podcasts so that you have time to get the book if you so choose. But in honor of Margaret Weis and Tracy Hickman coming back and doing some more Dragonlance novels, I'm so excited. We're going to read Dragons of Autumn Twilight, which is Dragonlance Chronicles Volume 1, which is I believe, where it all began for Dragonlance.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, is basically a book series that is set in a world of D&D.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I'm excited about it.
I am also very excited, because I have read this before, but it has been a long time ago.
Yeah.
Middle school, high school.
That would be cool. I'm excited about it.
So, and there are certain things that I'm remembering that I'm oh my gosh, I can't wait till we get to that part. I don't know if it was in this book or one of the sequels.
Cool.
I did buy all of the series for myself when I found them.
It's true. They're all on the bookshelf behind me.
My TBR list is very long.
Yeah, mine's getting there too.
You're welcome.
Yeah. It's an okay problem to have.
It is. It really is.
Alrighty. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing going forward with the read-along after Lies of Locke LaMora is over, that is. So maybe we'll do a thing where I'll
We may take a week off and have a read-along.
I might also... Maybe I'll, just so that we can have them, cut the sections of Lies of Locke LaMora out of each episode, and we can make
Oh.
like a playlist of
Yeah.
just Lies of Locke LaMora discussion
That'd be awesome.
on the channel on YouTube anyway. So that way people can just access that instead of having to weed through if they just want to do the read along for Lies of Locke LaMora.
Yeah. That's a great
I
idea.
think that'd be a good idea.
I
So,
love it.
but that's more thumbnails for you.
I am really enjoying my podcast thumbnail game.
You are. Good job.
You all should admire my new thumbnails because the original ones were crappy, and I have upped my game a lot.
I mean, it's not like you're not a graphic designer. You just
No.
like make the things.
I am not a graphic designer. That's why I'm so proud of myself. Because I'm taking my very, very minimal skills and making pretty things with it.
Good for you. Proud
Thanks.
of
No, I'm not a graphic designer. Not at all. And I use Canva. So if you're like wondering, it's a free tool online that you can use.
you. Yeah.
It has some very nice pictures and templates available.
There you go.
So, anyway.
So, now that all that's out of the way, we are going to get into the main topic of the night, which is magic. Magic. So, we're going to be talking about just magic and fantasy, and specifically, I want to get into hard magic systems versus soft magic systems. Some
Say
of you,
what?
Yeah, exactly. Some of you may not know what that even means, but I'm excited to discuss it. I mean, a lot of you probably know what it means without actually knowing that, like, these are categories that are split.
And
yeah.
I'm excited to learn more.
Yeah, it'll be
Because
fun.
for this being my bread and butter, this is not an area that I'm an expert in.
There's always opportunities to learn, even if it's your area of expertise.
Absolutely.
So, alrighty. So, basically, magic is just kind of going over just basics. I mean, magic systems are in fantasy because they're fun.
Yeah.
They're fantastical. They add a supernatural element. It's kind of what makes fantasy fantasy, right? When you add those elements to a story. So it's fun to imagine having these fantasy magical powers. This, like, wizards, superheroes technically count because, like, especially if you're Doctor Strange, you're literally a wizard. But but it's like in superhero movies, all of them are kind of, in a way, magic users. They all have different rules that they have to follow for their magic or their powers or whatever. So it's fun to imagine you have fantastical magical powers, and humans have been really telling stories like this since humans have existed. Like, look at antiquity, like Greek mythology. All of those are stories. Well, a lot of them are stories about, like, demigods doing crazy things. There's even, like, Jewish history and, like, biblical scriptures, like looking at Judges or, like, Samson. I mean, the dude had super strength unless you cut his hair. So that's an interesting example
Yeah.
for, like, a hard magic thing that we can talk about later when I give definitions for that.
Yeah.
Arthurian legend, Merlin, in Western culture, like British/French, I guess, for Arthur
Yeah,
stuff.
technically it was,
It's complicated.
it's originally French.
Yeah. But European, we'll say. So yeah, magic is something that is used in storytelling. It's something that can help drive the plot for a story. It can help create conflict for the characters in a story. It can be a main focal point. It can be kind of like a subtle thing. There's lots of different ways you can use magic in stories. And a lot of people don't realize that there are generally two camps for magic systems. There's soft magic and hard magic. So hard magic is a magic system that has set rules that can't be broken. There's, like, not loopholes. There's set guidelines. It's like laws of physics, right?
Okay.
Like, examples of this would be books like the Mistborn trilogy. That's a series by Brandon Sanderson. He's kind of one of the big hard magic people right now. Basically, the system's called allomancy, where you consume or ingest metal, and then depending on what kind of metal you ingested, you can do a certain superpower thing. Like, a certain metal enhances your physical strength. Another one enhances your senses, like your sight or your touch. Another one allows you to calm people's emotions. So, like, all these different metals do different things, but you can overdo it, and if you overdo it, bad things can happen. And there's like a rule structure. So that's a good example. Death Note is an anime that's a good example. It's about a character who finds this Death Note where whoever's name that he writes in the book dies. But there's like a big list of rules for how to use the Death Note in the front of it. And these are rules that you can't break. So that's a hard magic system. Avatar: The Last Airbender is actually hard magic in that there's 4 elements. You can only bend those elements if you're a bender for that group. There's
Unless
different.
you're the Avatar.
There's different what?
Unless you're the Avatar.
Right. Unless you're the Avatar, then you're the exception. Then you're the main character, which means you can do whatever you want because it's a fantasy sort of story.
Right.
So yeah, that's a hard magic system. Although I could see it argued where that one's more of a hybrid because we don't. No, I would still say it's just a hard magic system because you can only bend that element and you're limited in the scope of what you can do with that one element. Like if you're a waterbender, you can't bend earth. So another one would be Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. That one is all about alchemical like reactions to things. Like it's all about equivalent exchange. Like if you watch the anime, which is a very good anime, you should go watch it. It's very good. One of my favorites.
This show is just going to turn into us talking about anime.
Yeah, it's okay. Whatever. There's a lot of great examples of storytelling in anime.
Right. You're totally right.
So that one has a really interesting hard magic system about not allomancy because that's my sport. Alchemy. That's what I meant to say. It's alchemy.
A words.
Yeah, too many A words. And an interesting quote, this is actually from Brandon Sanderson, about hard magic systems. He says, an author's ability to solve problems with magic is directly proportional to how well the reader understands said magic. Mm-hmm. So he's a very big advocate for having set rules and boundaries for magic. You can't break the rules, and if you do break the rules, bad things happen to you. Like, there needs to be consequences for things. So he's a very big advocate for that. And also thinking about just how these magical systems affect the world, like from a world building stance, could be an entire topic in and of itself. Like how magic affects technology. Like if you have magical healers in your world, the medical technology is going to be trash because they don't have to worry about it because they can magically heal people. So
Can confirm this is true in my books.
Yeah, they would have no idea like what plants have what healing properties because they don't need to know.
Mine's kind of a hybrid then.
Yeah,
for that.
That's fine.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
That is hard magic. Soft magic systems are magic systems with less well-defined rules, and it's much more mysterious. There's more like flexibility. Examples of this would be Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Narnia, Star Wars. These are things where, and those are like really big names, like some of our favorite stuff, right?
Right.
Harry Potter, while there are some, and there's always exceptions.
I was going to say, I'm thinking of like because they have like rules for curses that are off limits or like illegal because they're severely damaging.
But there's no like, the magic itself is very soft in that we don't have a full understanding of the magic.
Right. And
people can just whip spells out of nowhere that we had no idea existed and just they can like do crazy stuff.
Right.
You know?
Right. And in the Half-Blood Prince, like you find out that Snape has like just been making up, like when he was a kid, he was just making up spells and writing them in a book.
Right. That's very soft magic.
Okay. Spoilers on that, but if you haven't read the Half-Blood Prince or you're that out of touch, then whatever.
Yeah. Lord of the Rings, who knows what Gandalf's about to do? You know?
Well, but he's also like a demigod.
I know, but what I'm saying is he just does what he needs to do to solve the problem. And there's, as far as we know, there's no set rules for his magic other than, like, I don't know. We just don't know.
He doesn't seem to use it as much as he probably should.
Yeah. I think
that's the one thing we do know.
He's probably supposed to not use it as much.
Right.
But I think that's canon. I think he doesn't. I think the whole idea of power corrupting, because that's what happened to Sauron.
Right.
Anyway, that's a whole other thing. We're not going to go there.
No.
Because we'll talk about it all night.
And this podcast is already too long.
Yeah. Chronicles of Narnia is another example where, there's magic and it's like the deep magic, but we don't know what that is,
Well,
we kind of know. You've read these more recently than me.
Well, my only argument for that was going to be that I think that it's more of a hybrid because there are direct consequences and rules for the magic, but the characters that we're following do not know those rules. But there are characters that do know, and because they're gods or God, they don't divulge that information. So I think that it is a hard magic system, but it is not intended for us to understand it.
We're not privy
fully
to that information.
Right.
Which means for us it's still really mysterious.
Yes.
And all of these systems tend to be a hybrid where it's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
Chronicles of Narnia definitely leans onto the soft side of the spectrum, but maybe not as much as like Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Now, Star Wars is like...
Yeah. It's so far on the...
Who knows what the Force does?
Well, depending on which trilogy you're watching, it does different things.
Yeah. Because it's like
it's an old religion that's just dead, and then it's like this incredible fighting steroid.
Because in the first, if you watch them in release order, the Force gets stronger and stronger and stronger with each movie released.
Yes.
It starts off just being about, having crazy reflexes and kind of not like being able to shoot a torpedo down a 2-meter or whatever.
Right.
Like it's almost like just super luck.
Right.
As Han would say.
Yes.
I call it luck.
Right. It's like, yes, I would say that Han was correct in that first movie.
But then Empire Strikes Back comes along, and all of a sudden people are moving stuff with their minds.
Right. Like, but not very much.
Yeah. But Luke pulls the lightsaber to him with his mind. Darth Vader's flinging stuff around with his mind. We had never seen that yet. Then Return of the Jedi happens. And then all of a sudden, Palpatine's shooting the lightning out of his fingers.
Right. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah. And then
where did that come from?
The prequels.
Oh my gosh.
The prequels happen, and the Yoda goes ballistic.
It's in your blood. There's midi-chlorians. What?
It's like they almost tried to make it hard magic with the midi-chlorian thing, and everyone's just like, oh, that's gross, don't do that.
Well, they couldn't figure out how to actually make it work.
Yeah.
So they gave up on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then, the prequels, you've got more people shooting lightning out of their hands. They're like throwing things at each other that are like huge. They're leaping. They're running at super speed. Mm-hmm. They're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And then the sequels happen, and all of a sudden the Force can heal wounds, which we had never seen happen before.
Not canonically.
Right, yeah, not in the movies.
Right, like in Legends, that was a thing.
Yeah.
But, so like when that happened in the new series, I was like, oh yeah, duh. And everybody else that hadn't.
Everyone else is like, why didn't Obi-Wan do that for Qui-Gon?
A lot of people read the Legends books, but people that hadn't were like super confused. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, no, that's a thing.
Yeah.
But.
It's just one of those things where the Force, and The Last Jedi, you've got Luke like projecting himself across the galaxy.
Right.
It's just, they do all kinds of bonkers stuff in the sequels that has never been seen before. Yeah. And, well, I mean, it's cool, but it's just like the Force gets more and more and more powerful, and it's so mysterious, and we don't have a super firm grasp of what it can do.
Right.
So, and both hard and soft magic systems both have pros and cons, right? So, some of the things that in my research that I had found for pro hard magic system, going back to hard magic, things with like set boundaries and rules, is that when you're developing a story, it becomes like the audience has a firmer grasp of your magic system. Mm-hmm. So I feel like because of that, it can be a little easier to develop the plot with your magic system, especially if you're like the architect type of writer, because then you can like scheme and do intricate things with this magic system to suit your needs for the plot, and you know what the rules are, and you just don't deviate from those rules. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of like some of the. Sorry, you're probably like looking at me like you're not paying attention. I am. I'm trying to think of some more recent examples that I've read, because I've read quite a few YAs this year that have magic systems, and I've been trying to figure out
Yeah.
how they fall. Because I think that like the V.E. Schwab series that I recommended to you a couple weeks ago that has a Darker Shade of Magic and A Conjuring of Light, and I'm probably forgetting. I don't remember which one was the first book. Anyway, doesn't matter. There is magic in that, and my inclination is to say that it's hard magic because there's like specific rules that they have to follow. But some of those rules get broken.
What are the consequences when the rules are broken? I think it classifies as hard.
So I think you would enjoy, again, I think you'd enjoy that series. But I think it's hard magic. And then the Walk on Earth a Stranger, which I just started rereading today, very soft magic. Like kind of witchy, mysterious.
Sure. Yeah.
She can sense gold, but don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe that becomes more clear as I go, but it seems like just kind of a random like superpower that she kind of has.
Yeah.
And then what else did I recently read? There was something else that had a lot of, besides Harry Potter. There was another book series that I read that had like magic in it, but I'm pretty certain that that was soft because it was like a religion, like mysterious. They don't really know why things are happening the way they're happening. And it's like, I feel like if magic equals religion, is that automatically a soft magic?
I don't know. It's not so much about like if you can determine what produces the magic and there's rules about the magic, I think it's a hard system.
Okay.
So like if where the magic comes from is like a religious origin, like a lot of the D&D magic stuff, like if you're a cleric in D&D,
right,
your magical powers come from whatever deity you serve, right?
Right.
So that's what produces it, and then maybe there's set rules and boundaries, like you can only cast this many spells a day. You've like this spell is going to take this much energy, and then whatever that energy is, if you can quantify it, like if there's a fuel source for the magic that you have to expend to, that's another way to tell if it's a hard magic system. Like with Mistborn, again, you're ingesting these metals, you can run out of the metal while you're burning it, is what they call it, burning the metal. But
in your stomach acids.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's very interesting.
I'm not mocking it. I fully intend to read it. Sorry. I said that goofy like I was making fun of it.
And I forgot I was going to explain this, my whole thing with Samson. The reason I would say that, if you were to look at the story from like a narrative perspective and assign it a magic system, it's a hard magic system because, well, one, we know where the power comes from is from God, and there's a rule that he's not supposed to break, which is don't cut your hair.
Oh, sure.
And then he breaks, the rule gets broken, his hair gets cut, and there's consequences. He loses the powers.
Right.
Hard magic system.
Yeah. No, totally.
So
I get what you're saying now.
Yeah. So back to the topic of pros and cons. So for the hard magic system, that was the pro that I was able to come up with, was that with that system, having the rules in place, I feel like it would be easier to design and develop a plot if you're that architect type of writer. I just feel like that's going to be good for you. Would you agree?
Yes. If I were an architect type writer.
Which you're not.
Which I am not.
That's fair.
So I have a very hard time conceptualizing that.
Yeah.
All the magic in my books is very soft system.
Yeah.
Like there are some rules, but I don't think of them as rules. It's just like, this is how it is.
That's fair.
And I don't know why.
It's totally fair. There's a lot of people that prefer soft magic systems to hard magic systems. There's a lot of people that are very adamant about that.
Oh. Really?
So you're in good company. Like when I was researching this, I found a lot of videos that were like, why soft magic systems are better than hard magic systems. I'm like, interesting takes.
I think with soft magic, though, you also run the risk of accidentally stumbling into Deus Ex Machina situations.
Yep, and that's what we're going to go into when we cover the soft magic. But first, so some cons of having a hard magic system. Your possibilities are much more limited. You can't deviate from these rules that you created without, you're going to
Breaking
confuse
the
your
world.
readers, and they're going to feel like you're cheating, if you break the rules. So you don't have as many possibilities with the magic. Also, your audience is going to have a much more closed-minded approach, where they're not going to be thinking about, oh, what are they going to do next? They're going to be trying to predict what they're going to do with this magic because they know the rules for it. You're not going to be able to surprise them too much, is what I'm trying to say, or as much. You still can, but you know what I'm saying.
No, totally.
And also, every time that magic is used, there has to be like an explanation or justification for it. Again, that just kind of goes along with having those rules. You have to be able to explain how the magic happened.
Well, and I'm thinking of like with Mistborn, if you have a finite resource, you have to be more careful with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So they're running around trying not, like if they're burning pewter, which is the metal that gives you super strength, and they're in the middle of a fight, and they run out, but the other person that's burning pewter hasn't run out yet.
Bummer.
Run away. Because you're hosed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Read Mistborn. It's very good. Okay, so now we're moving on to soft magic systems. And also, by no means are these all the pros and cons. These are just some things that I found or came up with. So, and these are not original thoughts. Other people have, done a lot. Do your own research too. So, some pros for soft magic. There's a lot more mystery and a lot more awe. There's more wonderment. You're left to kind of ponder like what the capabilities are of this magic. There's, without that set rules, I think it's much more open-ended, and a lot of audiences or readers, watchers, listeners, whatever, might prefer that instead of being locked down in a rigid thing.
Sure.
It can be more abstract.
I think that a lot of the times the characters are also learning with the audience in those situations. Like, Luke has no clue what he's capable of doing with the Force.
Yeah.
And neither do we. We have no idea. So watching him, learn with Yoda on Dagobah and, see the cool things that the Force can do, that's a cool moment for the audience.
Yeah.
And I think you get a lot more of that with the soft magic systems.
Yeah, and it's cool because with hard magic you can also have those moments of them learning about the system, but it's more almost academic,
right?
Where they're just learning the rules, and with the Force, it's or like with the soft, which is fine, right?
Yeah.
But then with the soft magic, it's like you said, it's much more
awe-inspiring wow, wonderment.
Yeah. So it's just different, right?
Yeah.
But
totally.
People would call that a pro for soft magic, and audiences are left to explore the possibilities with their minds more than with the hard magic system, right? They're kind of wondering like, oh wow, what are the capabilities of this? Could they do this? Could they do this? I don't know. That's really interesting to think about. Hard magic, it's like, I know exactly what the capabilities are of this magic. Like, you don't have to, like, you could wonder about like certain, like, what's the limits, or but there's a lot more open thinking with the soft magic.
I'm thinking we could probably do a whole podcast going through the Marvel characters and deciding whether or not they're hard or soft magic, because I think that each character is different.
That would be fascinating.
Because I was thinking of Doctor Strange and how, his magic does have very specific limitations, right?
Yeah.
And it comes from a very specific source.
Yeah.
And we did watch him learn how to use it.
I would say his is hard magic perceived as soft magic.
Yes.
To the uneducated.
Yes. But then, Wanda Maximoff.
Soft.
Totally soft, because you have no clue what the full capacity is.
Neither does
she.
Yeah.
But we do know what hers comes from. We know what the source is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, unlimited
Even
infinity.
the Infinity Stones themselves are definitely soft magic, because they do all kinds of wacky stuff.
Right.
The only one that maybe isn't soft is the time one, because that's pretty...
Which is what Doctor Strange is.
Yeah. That's the one that he uses, so... Yeah, so that's interesting. That's a great idea.
Future podcast.
I like that idea.
If we remember.
But here is the biggest con to
Okay.
the soft magic systems, and that is that it is much easier to write yourself into a corner and to feel like the only way out is a cop-out magic moment where all of a sudden your character learns how to do something they've never done before. specifically tailored to get out of that situation, which you can pull it off sometimes, but it also can feel kind of cheap. It just depends on the situation. You can make it work, but having those Deus Ex Machina moments where all of a sudden the character learns how to do the most powerful spell, and they knock the bad guy out, even though they had no rights to win that fight or no, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking of so many animes where all of a sudden the dweeby main character who
It's a
has
huge
no
trope.
business knowing what they're doing
Yeah.
suddenly does this incredible thing that takes out the bad guy, even temporarily.
It's
and
a
you're
trope.
Like, how you're a teenager? How did you do that?
Yeah.
So that is one trope that anime is guilty of a lot.
Oh yeah, that's the way all anime fights go. It's they fight, the bad guy overcomes them, then the good guy comes back and overcomes them, then the bad guy comes back. It's like they just take turns powering up or leveling up in front of each other.
Right.
Until eventually one of them caps.
I guess if both of them are doing it, it's better.
Yeah.
But it's just funny how you said that, and I was like, that's the thing that happens in anime all the time.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the biggest con for soft magic, is that it can feel like a cop-out. So, as far as other things, I mean, a con could be from like a writing perspective, you can't be as intricate with like the plot with like if you're an architect writer, I feel like if you're an architect writer, having a soft magic system will probably hinder you. Whereas if you're a gardener like yourself, I feel like that's probably your bread and butter and is easier for you to write with the soft magic system.
Sure.
Because then there's less like rules you're trying to keep track of. You can focus more on like character interaction or like other things. But you can still use it to like drive plot and present conflict and solve conflict.
Sure.
I feel like the solving the conflict part is where the soft magic becomes guilty of feeling unearned or cop-outy. But do you have any thoughts on this? Are you like scanning through your own writings now, trying to figure out
that is kind of what my brain is doing. But I was mostly coming to the conclusion that as far as like when I get to the end of a story, I don't think that I rely on the magic as being the problem solver at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like when I think ahead on how certain storylines are going to end, magic may be involved, but it is not the like, this is the thing that's turning the tide. Because the magic that might, even though it is very soft magic, like the characters that have magical abilities are very specific soft magics. They're not like, it's not the Force at all. It's like you'll have people that are gifted in certain things, but it's very specific to that thing.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. For the most part. And then I was thinking about how I am a gardener.
Yeah.
But I try to use a lot of trellises now. Like that's the one thing I took out of grad school was like, yes, be a gardener. That's fine. But also write that outline. Even if it kills you.
Yeah, I feel like the best authors will be a hybrid of the two, where
Well, I don't want to say one's better than the other, but
yeah,
they're just different. People write differently.
You could be a gardener that has an outline and still call yourself a gardener. Like that's not
right.
Just because you're a gardener doesn't mean you've like sworn off of writing outlines.
No. No, not at all. And I mean, we could talk about different people's different means of writing, and I don't want to hijack this podcast, but I follow a lot of authors. I follow a lot of authors on Twitter, and have like seen some interviews of different authors, in like the YA sphere specifically, and some of the ways that they talk about how they do their writing, I'm like, oh my gosh, my brain can't even wrap itself around what you just described. Like, I think it was actually, I don't want to say who it was because I could be wrong. I could be attributing it to the wrong person. But there was an author that was talking about how she doesn't write anything chronologically. She just writes scenes. And then after she writes all the scenes, she goes back through and ties them together. And I'm like,
ew.
Oh
I would never do it that way.
But her books are so good. And I'm like,
man.
how? how does your brain function that way? My brain does not function that way at all. Like
That's bonkers.
On my
good for her.
No, for sure. And she's very talented, very gifted. But they're like, I just this last week had like a moment of inspiration on my work in progress and was like, oh, I should go write that scene right now while I'm thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And that very rarely happens. Usually it'll be like the next scene that I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Because I write very chronologically and then go back and edit.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe it's a new era for me.
Mm-hmm. So as far as...
Sorry, huge tangent.
That's totally fine. That's a good topic for a future discussion, different writing styles. So as far as these two magic systems go, hard and soft magic, the thing is, like I said, all of them are a spectrum. And even if it's a soft magic system, a lot of times you can find an example of a hard magic like item or something in the story that will help drive the plot, you know. So Harry Potter's a very soft magic system, but they're still time turners, which are definitely hard magic. Like, this has rules. You can't break the rules, you know.
Or like the invisibility cloak.
Yeah. And even for
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings. That's what I was trying to think of. Lord of the Rings with the One Ring.
Yeah.
You know, Gandalf is off doing whatever he needs to do in the moment with his magic, but the ring, you know, every time you put it on, you're going to turn invisible, and Sauron's going to see you, and the Ring Wraithers are going to come for you. That's like that's the trade-off. Yeah. So the ring itself is a hard magic system.
Sure.
Although who knows what would happen if Sauron put the ring on? Like, then it turns soft magic, and he does whatever he wants.
Right.
When mere mortals wear the ring, we know what it does.
Rules. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all that to say, hard magic, soft magic, they both have their place, and the best books, in my opinion, kind of have a mix of the two. You know, everything's a spectrum, but I tend to find myself falling more, like, preferring more the hard magic stuff, just because I really enjoy the stories. But
says the Star Wars fan.
Well, I mean, I just grew up with that.
Yeah, but
recently, I mean,
okay.
Recently, I have become more appreciative of the hard magic systems because I like seeing the clever ways the author like tries to get out of, or the characters try to get out of situations with like using a specific set of rules at their disposal. It's entertaining to me.
Sure. And see, what you've all learned about me is that I once again have not paid that much attention to this particular part of storytelling up until this very moment.
But now it's inspiration for you to go off and do your own research into the topic.
Now I've seen a little more under the hood.
Yep.
And now I'm going to notice it more.
Yep. That's the way it works.
I can't decide if it's embarrassing or not that these are things that
Yeah.
I mean, laugh at yourself, whatever. But it's just weird. We did not talk about this in grad school. Russell, I know you're not listening to this, but if you're listening to this, why didn't we talk about different magic systems?
If you're interested in learning more about this, I would definitely recommend, you know, we can link this in the description of the video or in whatever, but there's actually, Brandon Sanderson uploads a lot of the lectures that he does at the school he teaches at.
Yes.
And there's one video specifically where he talks about magic systems, because that's something he really enjoys creating. These hard magic systems. So he has an entire lecture on it. So if you're interested in further research in the topic, you can go watch that. There's plenty of other creators on lots of other platforms that have talked about this, so feel free to hit them up too. So
I do want to defend my grad program just a second here.
Okay.
Because I feel like I just gave them a lot of crap. But it was genre fiction. Like, we talked about all the genres. As far as, like, we talked about romance and Western and fantasy and
very
horror
broad.
and mystery and YA, and we covered a lot of ground in 2.5 years. It was not an in-depth, you're going to learn everything about this one specific genre in 2 years. Whereas I think some of the classes that like Brandon Sanderson is teaching are much more in-depth on a specific topic. So just throwing that disclaimer out there. Russell, thank you for everything I learned from you. And Michaela and everyone else that I learned from at grad school. Yeah. You're wonderful.
Way to cover your butt.
I'm not. I'm genuinely saying, like, know your program if you're interested in grad school, and choose wisely.
Mm-hmm. The Brandon Sanderson lectures are, I think, hyper-focused on fantasy specifically. So if that's your interest, go check him out. And he's got a YouTube channel. He does a lot of other videos too, talking about other stuff. So
yeah, I've watched some of his lives. He'll do like lives while he's signing copies of his books, and they're always
he does live signing sessions. He'll do Q&As during those about some of his book stuff.
I haven't even read any of his books, and I enjoy watching his Q&As. So
yeah, which you need to change. You need to...
I know. It's literally on my list.
All right, good.
In my library.
Perfect. All according to plan.
Yes.
Alrighty. Well, yeah. So that was magic systems. Soft and hard magic systems. So we'll see what we talk about next time. Not 100% sure, but it's going to be Anna's turn to lead, so she'll get to figure it out.
I'm excited.
So
I think I know what we're talking about.
Okay. Well, we won't spoil it now. We'll let this.
Because I could change my mind.
We'll let this. Yeah, I'm giving you an out so that you can change your mind if you need to.
Thank you.
So yeah. So we will see you guys next time. Go read something cool.
Yeah.
Talk at you then.
Bye.
Later.